as well as our chapters. So stay tuned for that. But what I wanted to do is just kind of just start off our next session by introducing Professor Alok Kumar. Professor Alok Kumar is a distinguished professor at SUNY Oswego, and he's the author of a recent book called Sciences of the Ancient Hindus. I've had the opportunity to meet Alokji in Dharma conference first time when we had it in 2015. And then subsequently at a couple other events, there was a recent event in New Jersey that he spoke on regarding his book. And I got a chance to get a copy of the book. And it's a fascinating journey that he's going to be taking us through and discussing the ancient contributions of our ancestors in the fields of science. So maybe without further ado, I'll welcome Dr. Alok Kumar. Alokji, please.
Thank you, Nikunji, and thank you, NYU. I mean, I'm so thankful that you have invited me here to share my experiences. Now, before I talk about my lecture, I have to say the four panelists who were there, who were in the previous session, what a superb job they did. And I feel so good that, every generation has a role to play. They have to collect the knowledge that they have and pass it to the next generation so that they can build on that. In fact, we have done a very good job with Hindu culture, because otherwise cultures, they die often. And to give you an example of that, for example, we love our mother's food, but how many times we learn how to cook it? And mother is not going to be there forever. What happens? Then you keep thinking about those recipes for the rest of your life. This is what happens to culture. So in my case, I have to tell you, because everybody was telling their story, I have to tell my story. 40 years ago, I decided to come to America. And my father and mother, they said, you are not going there. And when they realized that, I'm determined, so my father asked me, okay, give me 2 promises and then you can go. I could have given 5 promises, there was no problem. So I said, okay, tell me. He said, first promise is, you are not going to forget your Hindu culture. I said, all right, that's no problem. And he said, second thing which is more important is, you are going to do something so that you can give back to the India or Hindu religion or Hindu culture. So I said, what can I do? I'm broke. I have a job, as a professor. I'm going to go to America as a professor, and that's a, basically guarantee that you'll be broke for the rest of your life. So I said, what can I do? He said, okay, write a book. And so that's how I started writing a book. And the first thing I realized that most of the time when Indians wrote something about India and said good things, the general reaction was, oh, it's a biased view. So I thought, okay, how can I counter that? So I decided, if India was a great civilization, then other civilizations must have written something about Hindus or India. So I decided, okay, I'm going to study Western literature, Chinese literature, Egyptian literature, Middle Eastern literature, and see what they have written about that. about Hindu culture. And so that's what I did in the last 40 years, and what I have collected that information, in the last 40 years, I have to share it in the next 40 minutes, which is going to be an uphill task. My lecture is right here, so be prepared to be here till 11:30, because I have been told that the program will continue till 11:30. And by the way, I'm not making it up, my battery has died, so I don't even know how much time I'm going to take. It just, it's not working right now. Now, before I talk, it is important, when you judge a lecture, you don't judge a lecture with just the contents. You judge a lecture with the impact, with the reaction of the audience. So it is extremely important for me to know the audience. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and if you want to say yes, you just raise your hand so that I know, something about your background. First thing is, how many of you have taken a science course in any discipline, at a high school level or higher? Oh, good, very good. How many of you too have taken an introductory astronomy course? Okay. How many of you have taken a trig course? Oh, very good. So I'm in a good shape now, because you are going to help me in my lecture. Now, my journey started from Haridwar. That's a town I grew up. I was raised there. And so every day I saw these monks and, who came to my house. And so as a child, I interacted a lot. And after I promised my father that I'm going to do this, write books, I wrote these 3 books. One is Science in the Medieval World. It is based on an 11th century document written in Spain. And it is the very first account where somebody has tried to write a global history of science. Science at that time, in medieval period, it had a slightly different meaning than what we have today. It basically means natural philosophy. Then I wrote this book, Sciences of the Ancient Hindus, and everything that I'm going to talk today will be coming from there. I have written another book because I thought, since I have written about the Hindus, I have to put that information, in perspective, and therefore I have to write something about the other cultures. So I have written a book, A History of Science in World Cultures, and that book covers China, Greece, the Middle East, Mayans, and so on, Egypt. My upcoming book, which is coming up in matter of weeks, I think in 3 or 4 weeks, this book should come out. I have already gone through the first proof, and that is Ancient Hindu Science is Transmission and Impact on World Cultures. So that's today's lecture. So everything that I'm talking about, most of the things are in, from this book. Now, I'm also involved right now in digitizing archaeological sites that are rich in science in India. That is an extremely important thing. Is a timely need, and that information, if I digitize it, then we can spread it in the whole world. Because I remember the question came, why can't we educate other people? Well, we don't even have tools to educate other people. So I am going to create that tool. By the way, I have received a grant from the federal government in America for this work in India. So this work will be done. So hopefully in October or November, you should be able to see those videos. There will be about 40 such videos, and they are going to be put on YouTube for public dissemination. So that work will be done. Now, let me talk about how the history, how our perception has changed over the years. Now, when I was hearing the Nikunji's questions, when we are talking about Hinduism, we are talking about caste, we are talking about all sort of social problems that we have there. We hardly ever talk about their contribution. So I'm going to start from the this information. In year 2000, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, that's the largest body in America, and they decided to document the top 100 contributions in human history in year 2000. There were only 2 non-Western contributions, and both belonged to the Hindus. Among the top 100 contributions in human history, and the reason I ask first is invention of zero and mathematics, and the second one is astronomy. Those who have taken a course in astronomy in the West, I want to know, did you learn anything about Hindus, their contribution to by the way, when I'm saying Hindus here, I'm not translating India into Hindus. This is what they said. American Association for the Advancement of Science is the Hindus who made tremendous top 100. Did you learn anything in your astronomy course? There is a pin drop silence. So what did we learn from that? The astronomy that you are learning is incomplete. It's a partial picture. We are not teaching you the whole truth. That's a reality. And by the time my lecture is over, it's not only the astronomy. You will see there are so many disciplines where we are not truthful, we are not honest, and you can make your decision on that. So let me start with the very first quotation from a book that was written in 11th century in Spain, so that's Europe, written by a Muslim who was a judge, and his role was to basically propagate Islam. And this is what he wrote. A very powerful man, Saad al-Andalusi, he's saying that Hind is known for the wisdom of his people. That's what Europeans thought about India and the Hindus, or Hind, Now, you can say maybe this person was, a unknown person, he did not know much about. The truth is, he was a very well-known person in Europe, and he was quite powerful also. Now, this book, because when I'm saying the first nation to have cultivated science is Hind, basically he's saying that science started from Hindus. And by the way, he's not alone. I can give a whole lecture by documenting how many people have said that. And you will be surprised, a very, very large number of people have said that. So this is not a isolated, quotation. Now, this is the reaction of the book in the media. When British Society for the History of Science, reviewed it, it called that book a invaluable reference. In academia, we do not use the word invaluable, by the way, too many times. And the reason is the information is so invaluable, and the Western world, or for that matter, the whole world, did not know about this book till 1992. And it was me who introduced this book to the world. And that's a long story for some another day, how I did it. The situation is, you would be surprised, and this is the role of your generation. We have in India 30 million manuscripts that have not been translated. 30 million. So we do not even know what is written in those manuscripts. That's the role of your generation, and that's the reason we do not know so much about India. One scholar has studied just in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, 93% of the manuscripts, people do not know what is written in those manuscripts because they have never been translated. So if you know Persian, Arabic, Sanskrit, Tamil, Malayalam or Kannada or any other language, please go to the libraries in India, because those manuscripts are going to decay. They are written on leaves. The documentation technology, that's not very good. And even on paper, it's not very good, and we have not digitized those. So that's the role for your generation to come out and introduce it to the rest of the world. So we know very little about India or about the Hindus as a result of that. Now, again, from the same book, which is the European knowledge, they are saying that Hindus, as known to all nations for many centuries, are the essence of wisdom, source of fairness and objectivity. They are the peoples of sublime pensiveness, means thoughtfulness, universal apologues. Because this word is not very common, so let me translate it. That is basically fables, moral stories. Most of the Hindu moral stories are universal in nature. They never tell you, okay, help your own people and kill the people who are not in your group. No, all rules are universal rules, and as it says, useful and rare inventions. How much useful and rare inventions you learn in your academia?
Zero.
Nothing.
Not much.
Academia is failing you, it is giving you an incomplete picture, and that's what this talk is about. I will be sharing some of those, rare inventions. But my focus is going to be not on ancient Hindu science, but its impact on other cultures. Because otherwise, you will be here till 11:30, which I know is going to be a challenge. By the way, first the ancient Hindu tradition. Somebody asked, why don't we ask why? And I think one of the panelists answered it very appropriately, that all our scriptures start with a question. In fact, that's part of the reason when I wrote my book, Sciences of the Ancient Hindus, the first sentence is a question, because I wanted to follow that tradition. So, you should ask why, and if your parents cannot answer, you should ask other people. One of these days, you will learn that. We have, by the way, that's the sign of an intellectual society. And Hindus were highly intellectuals. Debate to resolve differences. When we have differences, we don't kill those people. We talk about it. And we like to resolve that. That's our tradition. That's again a sign of an intellectual society. Respect for teachers. If we value knowledge, then we will respect teachers, and that's what we do. That's a sign of an intellectual society. And there was no conflict between science and religion, unlike in many other cases where people had to make a choice between science and religion. But in India, that was not an issue. And so basically, astronomy, mathematics, chemistry, physics, and yoga and medicine, they were practiced to meet the needs of religion and as well as to fill natural curiosity. And I'm going to share a quotation from Aryabhatta. He wrote a book, Aryabhatiya. That's a book deals with astronomy and mathematics. In that book, he's writing, in the 5th century. Whoever knows this book, which describes the movement of the earth. Earth is not stationary. I hope you're understanding it. In 5th century, it is written like black and white. And there is no confusion about it. And the planets in the sphere of this asterism means constellations. That person, if you can master astronomy, you can achieve God. That's what Aryabhatta is saying. Kannada, who wrote Vaisheshika Sutra, is saying if you learn physics, that's your path to moksha, which is salvation, another word, or liberation. This was the tradition among the Hindus. Science was bound to prosper among the Hindus. And it did. And I will share more about it. These are some of the contributions, and I can spend days and weeks on these, but I'm not going to. I will not even explain these things because of the limitation of time. What I'm going to do is their impact on other cultures. So, for example, when I'm talking, chess was invented by the Hindus. That's a highly intellectual game. Talking about shunya, which is zero. In India, we called it shunya, that means nothing. When Arabs learned zero from India, they chose a word that means nothing, and that word was sifr. Sifr, when Europeans learned it from the Arabs, became cipher in Latin. And then Italians decided, let's spell it with Z. And that's how it evolved into zero. Now, think about it. if we can talk about this story, that the information was invented in India, zero was invented in India, then it went to the Middle East, and then from there it went to Europe. A child in the first grade or second grade is going to say, what is India? And suddenly you have a reason to globalize that child. We are missing that opportunity. On the name of education, we are not uniting people, we are dividing people. So all that information should come out, right in the elementary school level, so that if 100 people are dying in a bombing in Middle East, that child will feel the pain. Oh, these are the people who did that, and now they are dying. Suddenly, it will unite people, it will bring cultures together, and we are missing that opportunity big time. Place value notation, where we write 11 as 1 and 1, because Romans did not do that. Romans wrote 10 and 1. If you write 11 as 10 and 1, you cannot perform mathematical operations. That was Indian. And so the European Renaissance that happened, the revolution that happened in Europe, it happened because of the mathematical revolution that happened in India. That's a very well accepted, known truth, but it is not shared in your educational system. For example, when Copernicus, the person who gave us that, we live in a heliocentric solar system, not geocentric, when he wrote his book, he said, I'm going to use the Hindu system because it is much faster, it is much better. So he discarded the Roman system in writing that book. Now, Fibonacci, I do not know how many of you know Leonardo Fibonacci. When he became interested in mathematics, he said, I love this system so much that I'm going to Egypt, Syria, Greece, Sicily, Provence, and so many other places, and then writing a book about it. By the way, you talk to any mathematician, they will know Fibonacci. What they do not know is, in the very first sentence of his book, or first page of this book, he's saying it, this knowledge is coming from India. That you have not been told. So again, the math education that we are getting is incomplete. Now, I'm pretty sure you have heard about the Pythagorean Theorem. And when the Minister of Science and Technology in India said that, we invented Pythagorean Theorem, he was ridiculed big time. And the media never bothered to investigate why he was saying that. There were plenty of shows criticizing him, ridiculing him even now, after 2 years. Let me share what the history is telling us on that issue. This is what Bodhyana Shulva Sutra has made a statement that, if you have a right angle triangle and you make a square on each arm, then the area of these two side arms will be equal to the area of that square that you are making on hypotenuse. That's, not so important. What is important is, this is Apollonius of Tyana, a very famous Greek scholar who was a Pythagorean philosopher. He is saying that it was the doctrines of the naked philosophers of Egypt and wise men of India. from which Pythagoras and his sect derived the seeds of their philosophy. So Apollonius of Tyana is saying that Pythagorean philosophy is coming from India. This is 1st century in the AD. Clement of Alexandria lived in Egypt. Pythagoras learned philosophy from the interaction of these Brahmins. A very explicit statement. There is no confusion about it. But historians of science in India, they don't want to be bothered with those statements because for some reason, Eusebius, Pythagoras studied under Brahmins, and then comes Voltaire, which is basically coming from France, that Pythagoras, his philosophy serves an incontestable proof that the true science was cultivated in India. So there was no confusion in the mind of Voltaire that Pythagorean philosophy was coming from India. And by the way, I have limitation of time, so I cannot go, provide more quotations like that. But there are plenty and plenty more similar quotations, where history, throughout in our history, for thousands of years, we have been saying that Pythagoras went to India. In fact, in my book, I have a whole, one appendix on that. Now, why do we call sine theta? In those who are experts on trig, did you ask your science teacher or math teacher? You are complaining about your father that you cannot ask why. Well, you can ask why from your teacher. Why do we call it sine theta? Who chose that word? We don't teach that in trig. The reason is this word was called Jaya in India. When Arabs learned it, they called it Jab, which is similar pronunciation. Jab has a meaning in Arabic language that means pocket. And the word for pocket in Latin is sinus. So when Europeans learned it, they literally translated the Arabic word. And then we became lazy. We wanted to shorten it. So we called it sin, and we did not want to pronounce it as sin. So we decided to call it as sine. That's the history of sine. Just imagine how many courses you have taken in trig and you have never told this story. And so you do not see the connection of mathematics with culture, with human being. And then you wonder, why the heck we hate mathematics? Well, this is a reason. There is no story there. I'm going to be, really condense my lecture, because otherwise I know if I continue till 11:30, I'll be having only 2 or 3 people here, because so I have way more slides. In the golden age of Islam, these were the most famous people, and in the Middle East, and the most famous was Al-Khwarizmi. And let me explain a little bit about them. The golden age of Islam happened because of India. I decided to write about it, and I thought, if I try it in America, perhaps the best thing is let me publish it from Saudi Arabia. So I wrote that article. There are a few other names, and I'm going to skip about them. So I decided to, the Saudi royalty, they have a magazine called Aramco World, which is basically coming from that Aramco oil company. So they have a magazine, and they circulate this magazine in academia for free anywhere in the world. Any professor, if you want a copy of that magazine, it will come to your doorstep, no cost to you. And they maintain a very high quality, and their purpose is to promote Islam. So I thought, let me write to them and see how they would react. And this is the article. They published it, and they loved it, and they paid me a good amount of money for doing that. So anything that I'm saying, I'm not making it up. That's my purpose of talking about it. That there is no controversy about whatever I'm saying here. Let me say first about the Al-Kindi. He is the earliest Islamic philosopher. He's saying we should not be ashamed to admire the truth or to acquire it from wherever it comes, even if it comes from the foreign people, because that's what was happening. And he wrote a book, and the last word of that book